Hey, what's up? This is Jonathan with JMAL Woodworks, and today I'm going to show you how I made a stovetop cover out of a single 1x12. This 1x12 was actually discounted at Lowe's. It was on the bottom where they put most of their discounted lumber. It just had a little bit too much imperfections on it, I guess. There was just a little bit on the edge that they didn't like. And right here you can see me taking a knot to the stomach. So that felt pretty good. That's why my fingers stopped. It was the pain. But I marked up 1.5 inches and just started making my handles for the sides. Nothing fancy, just going from small to big on one end to the other, and just leaving enough room for you to get your fingers in for the handle, and then just cutting it with the jigsaw. After I got done with the first handle side, I marked out the second one, making sure I got rid of where the knot had shot out, and then cut that, and then went to the table saw, cutting the board to 4 13/16 for the shelf part of the stovetop cover.
Dance, dance.
Adeline always wants to make sure that she shows you guys her dance moves. So here I marked out where I wanted the pocket holes, making sure I wasn't right on a knot, and just going through all of them, just in and out. And you can see I got them all pretty close, but I had to dodge some of the knots because you don't want to be screwing right through a knot, or else the whole piece of wood could split. And just making sure that the ends are flush and using the clamp to keep everything flat. And once all of the boards were screwed together, go ahead and just square off the ends, and here's what it looks like. I was 26.5 by 19 1/4, and that's before the sides and the back. So the only piece left to make was this back piece right here, and it's that easy, I wish. So for the holes, I didn't have a hole saw or any big drill bits. I don't know where mine are, but I used a quarter to make sure that I was right at 1 inch and had a good round to it. So I just drilled some holes to start out the cut, and then just copy and pasted onto the second one. So I wanted to make sure that none of the edges were going to be sharp, and instead of just using my sander and taking a lot longer, I went ahead and went over to the router. This makes things a lot simpler and a lot faster, and keeps everything the exact same too. Starting out in the handles, this is just a 1/4 inch round over bit, but it really just makes sure there's no sharp edges for people's hands to be getting into. That's especially the main part, but as you see here, I go all the way around. Anywhere that little hands, especially in our household, any little hands could be hitting, but the last thing that I need is for my wife to get hit by a sharp edge too. And so after that, the sanding begins. And in my last video, I talked to you about how there's a lot of sanding that goes on in these things, and this is part of why it just takes so long, and why handmade things and custom things can be really expensive.
Man, I can breeze through that door. Yeah.
I was gonna do this. I thought, nah.
I'd shave all my fingernails on them. Yeah.
So as you saw there, my dad came down and I was sanding so I couldn't hear anything, and he blew down the back of my neck and scared the heck out of me. So here I'm just making sure that I have pocket holes to attach the sides and the back, keeping track of which one's the back and which one's the front, because I almost made the mistake of drilling through the front, and that would have been a catastrophe. So I went ahead and attached the back first. That way I could get the sides just right. It made it easier. And I didn't have to have everything exactly flush on the bottom. Nobody's going to see the bottom. And on a stove, it doesn't have to sit exactly flat as long as it's not just moving back and forth too much. But all you need is just a little bit of glue down the side, and then putting these 3 screws in is more than enough. And go ahead and just wipe off the excess glue, and here's your first look at somewhat finished. So I blew it out, making sure there wasn't any dust left to get into the polyurethane, and I wanted to keep it lighthearted, but then my camera took a dive. My wife hates when I go to bed and my hands smell like stain, and so I wanted to have a cool shot putting on these gloves, but I'm definitely not a doctor. So here I'm applying early American stain. It's just kind of right in the middle on all the stains as far as dark and light. And here's it with all the stain all the way covered. And now we get into the finishing process. Same thing as the table that I made, just doing the pocket holes first. You can plug in these holes with dowels or just some kind of plug, but I didn't figure it'd really matter too much because it's on the bottom. Nobody's looking at the bottom too much, but if I was doing it for someone, I would cover it. Starting out on the bottom and then go to the top so that the bottom shows any imperfections on it, sitting on blocks and stuff like that, or any excess that goes to the bottom. So you put on your first coat, somewhat heavy but not too heavy, and then sand it with 600 grit and put on the second coat, and then you're done.